Hey everyone, welcome back to another Mirrly on Time, an exciting episode for you today. It's my podcast, Beyond the Watch, and today I have on Omar from Timeless Sneakers and Watches. Stay tuned. YouTube, what is good? I got a very special guest for Beyond the Watch today. It is my man, Omar from Timeless Sneakers and Watches. And if you haven't subscribed to his YouTube channel yet, please head on over there. I will leave a link in the description, but a lot of you know who he is. He's a fantastic guy, and I'm so excited that he's my guest today. So welcome, Mr. Omar. How are you, my man?
What is good, Mr. Mirrly on time?
Yeah, man, I had to do the what is good. And we messaged back and forth, and I usually start, Omar, what is good?
You do. I caught on after. I was like, wait, I think he's
I'm
making
mimicking
fun of
you.
my intro.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm doing my Omar. I'm doing my Omar. So how you been, man? How's it
How are you,
going?
man? I'm good, man. I'm good. As I was telling you earlier, just tired. This week really just beat me up. So
Yeah.
late, sitting here on the couch, excited to talk to you, and I was excited for this. I was looking forward to this, and so yeah.
Awesome,
What about
man.
you? How you been, man?
I'm the same. I mean, a lot of people don't know that it is now midnight my time. And
That's insane.
when we originally set this talk up, I was at a different school where I work as a custodian where I had a day shift. So normally, under normal circumstances when we book this, I would be on days and I probably do it at home and in my lazy boy chair and relaxed like you are. But I couldn't pass up the opportunity to work in the town where my actual church is that I minister at, and I was at the school there, but it was afternoon shift only, 3:30 to big quarter after 3 to 11:15, and so I headed on over to the office after I was done at the school, and here I am. So yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm a night owl a little bit. I normally don't go to bed until 1:32 a.m. when I'm working the afternoon shift, so I'm pretty good right now. But yeah, that's
Dedication. That is
that.
dedication, man.
Well,
There's no
you're a
way
busy
I would
guy.
be up
Like you
at
got
midnight
family
recording.
life happening on the weekends, so it was difficult because normally I like to do it Sunday afternoon, like when I'm done my church service and that. And so you're a busy guy with the family on the weekends. Your kid plays ball, so tell me about that. Let's talk about that first of all. So you got,
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
when you say ball? Is it basketball? Is
Soccer.
it
Soccer.
soccer? Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I have my little rock star, my little superstar. Well, he's not so little. He's 12, will be 13 this year. So
Wow,
he's I'm gonna have a preteen here, a teenager actually, in a couple of months. So
that's
yeah, no,
exciting.
he's been playing soccer since he was 4 years old, and he joined a club team this year, and it's a travel team. So
Nice.
it runs from February till about June, end of June, and so every weekend is almost filled with tournaments.
Uh
So
huh.
I'm usually gone Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some cases Saturday, Sunday, Monday if it's like a long weekend.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's why there's no way I could have done this on the weekend because I'm out on the soccer field.
So is he a good ball player? Is he? What position does he play? Is he a forward,
Yeah,
defense, goalie? What's he do?
I don't say it just because he's my son, but no, he's actually really, really good. He plays both midfield and forward. And then I
Okay.
have an upcoming football star too. So he's going to be starting flag football this year. So he's super excited for that. And that's my youngest. He's gonna be 9, so he's 8 right now.
Flag
So yeah,
football.
so busy between both, and then
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's always on the go.
Yeah. So it must be tricky for you. Like my kids are kind of grown now. Well, one's in third year university. One just finished his
Oh wow.
first year. So none of them are really doing anything like that. Like a few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do a YouTube channel because my kid was going every weekend. He played on a competitive basketball team and
Oh,
was a
nice.
pretty good baller. But concussions and
He
whatnot
didn't follow
really
through.
messed with him. What's that?
Oh, he didn't follow through college.
Well, no. When he was, I guess, 16, he had his first concussion. Just bumping heads with a player driving to the net or something like that. He had another one about a year later, and then in a after a basketball game on the way home, my son was driving and unfortunately fell asleep at the wheel with my wife, and they were almost killed. They went. He took out 5 guardrails along the highway. Uh, Almost ripped the tire right off of the car. Went down into the ditch. I got to the scene, and my wife. It was kind of a funny thing because my wife called me up and said, "Can you call CAA, which would be like AAA for you guys, Auto Club?" And
Yep.
said, "Can you call CAA? We went in the ditch. We're going to need to get pulled out." Never told me about the guardrails. Never really told me how serious the accident was. And so I went down to deal with it because the plan that I have, I as the account holder or card holder had to be there. And
Have to be
yeah,
present.
so yeah, they narrow like basically the guardrail saved their life because they were about literally a handspan away from a tree where the car settled into a 10-foot ditch. It
Wow,
was 10 feet
man,
down. It was
that's
almost
scary.
it was almost sitting side. It was sitting on the driver's side door. Um, just prior to those guardrails is escarpment face. It's all like Niagara escarpment face, solid like
Oh
limestone
man,
rock. And obviously, after the guardrails, they would have went straight into that tree. So I just saw it. I saw
that's
what I
scary.
saw when I got there. Police officer was standing on the side of the road, and I said, "I understand. My son went into the ditch, and he's got a." And he said, "Well, he took out 5 guardrails, and like it was." So it was that kind of
Wow.
that kind of took him out of uh, playing because within the police officer was kind enough to drive my son and my wife home while I waited for the CAA tow truck and whatnot. But by the time he got home, his head was just pounding, and my wife insisted we got to take him to the hospital. And yeah, that kind of he just
Wow.
wasn't he. It it literally changed my son. Um, aside
I
from
bet, man. That's
aside from the concussion, just like the post traumatic from being in an accident that could have took him and my wife out. It was it's been a rough couple of years. Just his uh, it changed who he was, as you can imagine, right? So
well, yeah. I mean,
he hasn't played competitive ball since. Yeah, but he could very well have
yeah.
played through university. Like he was a pretty good player, but yeah, yeah. So
Man, that's scary, bro. That is scary. I'm so glad to hear that he's okay, though. The wife is okay. I mean, that's scary. And I'll be honest, as a parent, I think that's one of the biggest fears. I'm starting to acknowledge that is reality, and it's around the corner. And that's my oldest. In what 3 4 years he'll be driving.
mm.
Uh, and that's always scary, man. I start thinking about that, and
What were you like
yeah,
when you
my
were
hands got
16
sweaty.
driving?
Well, dude, it's crazy because we look back, right, at the stupid stuff that we would do when we were younger,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how did I not die? Like, how did I not put myself in a situation?
Uh-huh.
Growing up in high school, I was part of a car club,
Ah.
and especially during. I mean, so I'm going to be 35 this year, so.
Okay, you're just
Uh,
a young pup.
during, so during the time that I was growing up, Fast and the Furious, all that fun stuff was
Yeah.
just coming out. I was I was in high school when that stuff. So man, we were out there doing stupid things, racing and driving fast. And I look back now, and now that I see it from a father's standpoint, I'm like, what the hell was I like? Thank
Yeah.
God, like I survived, and I didn't,
So
end
did
up
you have
killing somebody or.
you obviously had some close calls then, right?
Well, you look back and you're like, yeah, that was stupid. I probably
Yeah.
shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, that's scary, man. But I'm glad to hear your family's good. So do you only have one?
I've got 3 kids. So I've got
Alrighty.
a daughter. She just turned 22 this week on Monday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm
Happy
46, so
birthday.
I've got a few years on you. So my son that we were just talking about is my middle, and he's going to
Okay,
be 20 this August. And then my
nice.
youngest is another boy. So I got a girl and 2 boys. The youngest is going to be, uh, is he going to be 18 or?
Come on, Dad. Come on,
Oh,
Dad. You
he's
got to
born
know
in
this.
'05. So what's that make him? 22. He'll be 17 in June, not too long from now.
Okay.
He's really into
Yeah, so
cars
they're all
too.
grown.
Yeah, my youngest boy's really into cars, and we took him to Toronto a couple weeks ago to a big car show down there, and he was just in glory land there, man. Like he was, and it was hard to even keep up with him because like this place was packed. I mean, packed to the brim. All the COVID protocols have been removed in the province of Ontario where I live, and
Okay.
so he was so excited, like he would just kind of like see a car and go that way and see a car and go that way. And I'm like, dude, like
Can you hold
slow
up?
down. Like I know he's old and he's not going to be, maybe getting himself into too much harm or whatever, but it's like, it was so packed in there. It's like, dude, like we need to stay with you a little bit so we know where you
Yeah.
are, right? So
We're
yeah,
gonna lose you. We're gonna lose
yeah,
you in the swarm of people.
yeah. But I remember when I was 16 or 17, my mom had just a Z24 Cavalier, nothing special, but it was a bit of a sporty car. It had a spoiler on it, and I was golfing with a buddy of mine who had a Pontiac Bonneville, and we were coming home 2-laner downhill highway, like a highway, and we were doing like if we had a got pulled over, oh my gosh, it would have been some serious bad news. I was doing about 180 kilometers an hour, which would be
That's
what
fast.
about 100 and maybe about 120 miles per hour, something like that. And I just remember hitting just a little bit of a like a dip or a ridge in the road, and I had 2 hands on the wheel, but it was like, yeah, it was like,
Ah!
oh, I almost crapped my pants right there because I thought like if I had a veered off or lost control, whole like you said, and then so my kid's driving it's like it's like your memory becomes really good when you're going, oh yeah, my kid's driving now and this is what I did when I was 16.
Well, and then I feel terrible because then I'm like, now I know what my mom and dad felt like. Like they were probably worried sick all the time, the same way I
Yeah.
worry now as a parent, right, for the safety of your children. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, "Nah, I'm sorry, mom. I'm sorry, dad."
And when they get a little bit older, they'll tell you some of the crap that they did that you don't know about.
Right,
That's kind of
right.
the fun part where, just the other day my boys were talking just some stuff they did at school. Nothing that would have harmed them, but like stuff that, I wouldn't have been too happy about knowing at the time.
The,
And
the scary part and the crazy part is that you never truly know your kids. You
mm,
truly never you'll never know them 100%. You think you do,
yeah,
right? And you but there's so much stuff. I mean, just think back on your childhood. How much stuff did you do that
yeah,
your parents had no clue about? But I'm sure they were like, "Oh, Chris is such a good boy," and you're probably doing some crazy stuff
yeah,
that they
yeah,
never
yeah.
found out about.
Yeah, I got a funny. Oh no, I can't tell this story, but I'll tell you after. I'll tell you. I can't put it on air, not because it's like, you know, it's just my son, who occasionally watches what I do on YouTube or whatever, if he found out I told this story, he'd be very upset
He
with me.
disown you.
He'd
He
be
disown you.
yeah. He'd be very he'd be very upset. And so I'll tell you after. Remind me, but it's a hilarious like throwback to, I know what's going on here because I was a teenager once, kind of an idea, right?
Yeah, yeah. I tell my boys, I'm like, look, God knows why He gave me two boys and no women, but I know a lot, and I know what you're gonna go through. I know the temptations. I've been around. You can't fool me. Like
Yeah.
I know what you're gonna go through. So it's fun being a parent. Have kids, they said. It'll be fun, they said. So
Well, and I don't know about you, but for me, like the anxiety and the constant concern for, you know, for me, I take it on. I take it all on, and so it daily wears on me. Just, wanting my kids to grow up and be successful, and just, and they are good kids. The best is like the worst of themselves is usually at home because they're more comfortable there, and
yeah,
and the best kind of compliment is when you hear like your kid's out in the workforce now or whatever, and oh, he's such a nice young man or such a nice young woman, and you're like, really? Really?
you're like I don't see that, but sure, thanks.
My kid? You talk, yeah. And so, but like, it is absolutely, like, I know people who for whatever reason they decided I don't want kids, and maybe before at another time I'm like, oh no, I want five, I want six, I want a bunch. It's like, you don't want kids? It's not that bad of an idea. Like, I love my kids, but it's hard if you care. Yeah. If you're a good parent and you care. Like, there's parents out there that don't give two shits about their kids, and they're terrible parents, and but like, if you care, it is absolutely a grinding deal. It's emotionally taxing. It's definitely the hardest gig in the world.
Oh, 100%. And a lot of it, I mean, you're learning on the job.
Oh,
and every child is different, right? You have to adjust to every child. Like, you can't treat them all the same. And I've learned that the hard way, even with my youngest. Like, I can't direct myself to him or talk to him the same way I talk to my older one. And so there's always this adjustment. And to your point, man, it is a very hands-on, tiring, financially expensive, just job, but it's also the most rewarding. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. If I look back now, because I had my kids when I was really young. I mean, I had Ashton, who's my oldest, when I had just turned 22. I had just turned 22.
Me too, man. My daughter, well, yeah, 20. No, I guess 23 or 24. My daughter's 22. Okay. I'm 46. So yeah, we had them fairly young too.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's tough because you have to grow up a lot faster, right? And and so yeah, but I obviously I would have waited a little longer if I could have. If I would have been able to say, hey, let me just pause here, but let me choose those two boys to be my kids, and then I'll have them when I'm like older,
Yeah.
But no, I love being a parent, man. I love being a dad, and my hope is that I can steer them in the right direction, and for them to grow up to be, successful men who bring good to society in some way, somehow.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, and even if there are, like I said, if you kind of joke and go, yeah, you're talking about my kid, but like, that's a very rewarding thing to hear. Like, even my kid, I can say this one, he wants to be a mechanic. He's really into cars, and he's doing a co-op placement.
Oh, nice.
At a body shop, and they specialize in European cars and whatnot. And he just asked the guy today, do you think maybe I could have a summer job here. And the guy's like, oh yeah, we can work that out, no problem at all. And he called me today, and he's like, guess who's the mechanic at the dish? Like he's so excited, and just to hear that, that's the best, because like when he went there, he's all timid and shy and nervous. He doesn't want to screw up and whatever. And, he's doing a good job, and he is a good kid. Like all my kids are good kids. We don't necessarily think so at home all the time, but when they're out in the world, man, they're doing well. And that's the best part, is when other people be like, I had a lady tell me, this was funny, you don't deserve to be her dad. About my daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. And she said
Well,
it
you
in
said G.
she
G
said it in
Banks.
jest, like she was joking, but she's like, your daughter is so wonderful. How in the heck did you raise her?
How did this happen?
Exactly. And I'm like, but
Well,
by the grace of
they
God,
say
really.
they say your kids are a reflection of you, right? Or a reflection of what home is like. So
Yeah.
clearly, you're doing a killer job, man. So congrats.
Well, it's a tough gig, and I a lot of credit goes to my wife for sure, because I mean, one of the primary reason I married my wife, and she's a high school sweetheart, so we met in high school.
Okay.
But the primary reason I was like, yeah, I could do life with this girl, is because of how she was with kids. Like I knew she'd be an amazing mom, and she'll say like, oh, I'm not that, no, like incredible mom, and
Awesome.
can't imagine doing it without her.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of the credit for a lot of stuff goes to her, because she was the one that nurtured them, raised them, right? And I was out working and whatnot, and yeah, I got to give her the props for that.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, man. Hey, teamwork makes the dream work.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get it. What are you wearing on your wrist today? Let's get into that. What are you
Uh,
rocking today?
yeah, let me take it off the wrist because that way
It's
I can
not the
put the.
Rolex, because I don't see the yellow gold on her.
It
Or is it?
is. It's actually my Batman.
Oh, you got a Batman?
I do. Yeah. This is my latest pickup actually. Wait, which way is this way? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
But
dude. And that's a
yeah,
Rolex, eh?
yeah, Rolex. Yeah, it's the 126710, the
Oh,
VLNR. So
man. That is beautiful.
yes, thank you, brother. I just got it
Dude.
actually. I just picked it up. I got the call from my AD about a month ago, maybe. Yeah,
Oh,
about a month ago. He
that is
so
awesome.
thank you, brother. I had put down my name. Obviously, he has a list of all the watches I want, and the one I was really going after was the Starbucks or the new ceramic,
Yeah, yeah.
green sub.
Yeah.
And so either that or the OP 36 in the Tiffany blue. Like I really wanted
Oh,
one of
yeah, yeah,
those two.
yeah.
And he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I have something available that I think is better than the Starbucks. Not sure if you're interested." And I'm like, "Well, what is it? Send me a picture." And he sends me the picture of the Batman, and I was like, "I'm on the way. I'm on my way."
Oh, man.
So yeah, so happy to have this one, and yeah, I'm enjoying the heck out of it, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy. So
Yeah,
that's your second Rolly now, or what?
technically it's my third.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
got, do you get rid of one, or do you still have three or two, or what?
So I have two right now. So I have this one, and then I have the two tone Explorer.
Yeah, that's a sweet one. Whew.
Yeah, I have
Well,
that one.
I
What are you wearing? Why do you laugh?
because, okay, Rolex. All right. This is just
It's still a
this.
heck of a watch.
Oh, man, so we'll talk about that maybe in a bit. Like, yeah, man, I'm wearing the
Oh, the
newest.
Tudor. Yeah,
Well, it's not a Tudor. It's not
it's
a
the
Tudor.
it's the
It's
It's
the
the.
it's the hashtag Tudor's ugly cousin.
By
This
the way,
is
I saw that video. That hey, I was dying when you said that.
this is the Pagani version. So one of my nicest watches is the homage that San Martin did of this in the reverse Panda. I picked this
Yeah.
up only because of the AliExpress sale, and I wanted to.
So you just got that.
Yeah, man, this is brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say because I remember the other one was the black dial.
yeah, that's the San Martin. So what
So
I'm
do you
gonna
like that one
do?
better?
What's that?
Do you like that one better?
Oh yeah, like there's no question that the San Martin, quality wise, is definitely better. What I'm going to attempt to answer in a future video is, like this was, $100, give or take a few. I ended up getting it up for under 100, I think, on that spring sale for AliExpress.
Okay.
The San Martin's $400, so
Oh wow.
it's not a it's not a cheap watch.
Yeah.
For me, $400 isn't a cheap watch, and
$400 is a lot of money, dude.
so what I'm gonna do is like, okay, is the San Martin really worth the $300 more that it costs to get basically another homage watch like a Pagani? A lot of people think so. The finishing is definitely like far superior. You can
Okay.
definitely you can definitely notice a quality difference. But is it three
What
hundred
about the
dollars?
heft?
Like, where do you like? To be honest, if this was around before the San Martin, I would have got this. Because this is a pretty nicely made watch, and there's some real improvements that Pagani has done. Some real screw ups on this one too, as far as I'm concerned. But
Oh really?
I enjoyed it. It's a nice looking piece, and I'm not going to get.
How's the weight?
It is not. It's not bad. It's just got a Mecha Quartz, a Seiko VK Mecha Quartz movement in it, so it's not all that hefty. So it is pretty decent. I don't know how much it weighs. I haven't got a scale yet to do that with the watches that I get. The other one that I got on the AliExpress sale, which was the Planet Ocean Seamaster homage of Pagani, it's a
Nice.
brute.
Okay.
Like, it's 15
Yeah.
mil thick, and it is like it's substantially heavier than this one.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't mind
So,
it.
so are you a fan of your watch being like hefty, like having some weight, or do you like the lighter stuff?
I haven't. I like a little bit of heft. I don't mind
Okay.
feeling it on my wrist. Some of the lighter ones that like the dress watches that I have or whatever, like the Orient Bambino, like you can barely feel on your wrist. I mean, that's nice too, but like I definitely don't mind feeling the watch on my wrist. How about you? Like,
So, the reason why I ask is so I used to I reviewed the actual Tudor, the Chrono.
okay,
Actually, the reverse Panda. I reviewed that a couple months back, and then for some time I had the Tudor, the GMT, the Pepsi,
yeah, yeah,
and man, the real ones. I mean, they're really heavy, and I would get wrist fatigue, man. Like I could wear it like throughout the day, but then come around the time I got home from work, like my wrist was just like, okay, I need to take this off because
really.
it was heavy. The Chrono's heavy and that GMT's heavy, man. Especially on the bracelet. The
Yeah.
bracelet and the watch head combined.
So how
I
much
mean,
weight
they're
are we
heavy.
talking? Do you know? Like 170
I
something
think
grams, maybe, or
yeah, I think they're like 173 or 175 grams, something like that.
yeah,
So they're heavy, heavy boys.
yeah. Without knowing, I would guess this is about 140 something grams. It isn't that bad.
Okay.
But the other
Okay.
one,
Yeah,
that
that's pretty
Seamaster
close.
homage, it's definitely in the 160 range probably for weight.
Thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely got, and I like it. Like I don't mind it at all. The a little bit of heft. But yeah, yeah. Well, that's
Nice, man.
amazing, man. Oh. If I could
Stop
reach,
it.
if I could reach across and mug your arm right now, I would do it. Actually, I was gonna
I
get a
thank
Pagani in
you.
that, but I got a GMT Master 2 homage by Pagani and
Okay.
Pepsi, and oh, it's beautiful. I can imagine the real one is
You know
just
what you should look
amazing.
into, or what brand you should look into. And I mean, obviously they're a little bit more expensive, but I personally, man, I think you get, especially if you like the homages and all that stuff. If that's the world you're in and you want to get like a really really good quality, Steinhardt. Have you ever had a Steinhardt?
No, no, but I've seen different reviews on them. Yeah.
They're great watches, man. That was one of I had one early in my watch collecting, and till this day, man, I'm impressed. Like they're solid watches. They feel great. They're solid, man. And for the price, you can't go wrong. So
Cool.
I would highly recommend, man. Like check out a Steinhardt. If I know you like the homages. Great watches, man.
Yeah, man. My new grail now, I wouldn't mind a Breitling Navitimer. I think 1B01, I think is, or something like that, with the slide rule bezel and whatnot. Like they're gorgeous, but
They are.
the more attainable one for me would be the Breitling Super Ocean.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
White dial with the blue numerals. I'm getting into
Beautiful
white
watch.
dials recently. For some
Okay.
reason,
Okay.
I'm loving white dials now. But yeah, man, that's more
I'm
attainable.
ex-
The Super Ocean is $4,800 Canadian. That's kind of that's out there for me still, but it's more doable than the $10,000+ that the Navitimer would cost, and that's new. Maybe you could
did
get
you
one in the gray market, but
did you did you like the new releases, the new navies and the new colors?
you know what? I didn't even see them.
Oh, you
Uh,
haven't seen them?
I'll have to
Oh
check
man,
them out.
check them out.
Are
They
they?
released uh they released this new like light green, like pistachio green. Oh man, it looks beautiful.
Oh, cool. I will have to check that out.
Yeah.
It's a dream, right? It's one of those things. So here's something that I want to talk about with regards to this whole thing. Just something that I have observed about you,
Okay.
um, and just how I would maybe define you.
Okay.
From just
Oh jeez.
Oh, we're getting real existential here. No, 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 no. But correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be, just from my interactions with you on watching you and messaging and whatnot, you seem to be a very glass half full kind of a guy, and if not like half full, like no, that glass is going to get fuller. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're optimistic. You got like really, you're a real encouraging kind of a guy,
Thank you,
and
brother.
you're optimistic. Like if you want it, you can get it. That sort of whatever. So
Yeah.
where does that? Is that right? Like that's right, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, that's spot on, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary that you're able to read me that way.
Well, I do think that I have. Well, as a minister, I'm able to read people, generally speaking, pretty good. Me, I'm not a glass half full, glass half empty. I'm like, there's water in the glass. But like that's just that's, that's me. Seriously, like that's me. But where do
Okay.
you get? Is it a part of just the way that you were raised, or is it
Yeah.
like where do you get the like it's not half full, it's gonna be full soon, kind of like where do you get that?
Yeah.
Where does that come from for you?
So I would have to say my mom.
Yeah.
My mom is so my both my parents and including myself. So we immigrated from El Salvador.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I was two. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I was 2 years old when I came to this country. I didn't actually learn how to speak English until I was like in fifth grade here in the States. Um,
Okay.
my mom has
Wow.
always been, and granted, my dad has been a phenomenal father, always provided for his family, hard worker. So it would be a mixture of both. But I'd always give my mom a little bit more credit just because my mother went from, being a stay at home mom to having her own business. And, to do that here with, little to no English at the very beginning
Yeah.
and really just grind her way up. I think that has always stuck with me. I admire her for that. And so just being able to see both my parents accomplish so much. And listen, I was able, and my sisters, I have two younger sisters. My sisters will always tell you, oh, Omar was spoiled rotten. And,
The baby?
growing up, I mean, and it's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, put it this way, I had a new vehicle, I had a new car every year of high school, technically.
Oh my
So
goodness.
from freshman year to senior year, my parents just they gave me everything that I, had worked for, and all they asked of me was, "Hey, do good in school."
Right.
And so yeah, so to answer your question, man, I think it comes from my mother. She really is a hard worker. She to this day, and she's 55. She's going to school to become an accountant now.
Oh wow.
And
Okay, good for
and
her.
so yeah, and so nothing stops her, man. And she has dreams and aspirations, and I see her like just reach these goals, and I think that's stuck with me. And so life is hard, bro. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Life is not easy. But you can only control what you can control. And so I've learned, and this is the honest truth, just recently, and when I say recently, probably in the last year or so, um, shit happens.
Yes, it does.
And and literally what I do is I take legit 5 minutes to myself. I bitch, I complain, I moan, I do whatever I gotta do to let that
Yeah.
emotion out,
Vent. Yeah.
and then I move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can't control it. It's out of my control. But as humans, sometimes we feel a certain way, and so. But yeah, yeah. My mother. To answer your question, my mother.
Yeah. And so obviously you saw that modeled. When do you recall a time when you kind of encountered an obstacle, and either you would hear your mother's voice in your head, or literally, yeah, Omar, you can do it, or whatever, because it's not just a observable behavior from one person, but then you got to actually kind of go through life and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
go, okay, like, uh, is this going to work for me? I don't know. I learned it from my dad, like, yeah, there's water in the glass, and if you're not careful, it might empty. So I'm a little
Which
bit
is
the
true. Which
I'm a
is
little
true.
bit the opposite of you, but I have come to learn that, yeah, with hard work, and with the Lord, I'm a very firm believer in the Lord, and I'm a minister myself. So, and I want to talk about that because your dad's a preacher or whatever. I want to talk about that in a minute too.
Yeah.
But
Both my
what
parents.
was like? What was a time in your life when you were like, you encountered something that you had to approach it, or you remember approaching it with this attitude, and it it kind of it works, right? So like,
It does. It does. And I I know that we measure success with tangible stuff, right? I think
yeah,
that's how, as humans, we measure success. I was able to get a Rolex. I'm successful, or whatever, right? So for me, I think it started right when I started my professional career, man. I think when I had to start working and start earning that hard, dollar. I think that's when I started to realize I need to change my approach, because again, the world will beat you up,
yeah,
you know, and so it's not how many times it beats you up, but how many times you can get up and continue to move forward.
mm,
And so would I sit in my room and roll up in a little ball and cry, and or do I say, fuck that, like I'm gonna go ahead and prove to whoever that I can do this. And of course, my mother, again, being my number one cheerleader, right? Hey, you can do this, you can do
yeah,
that. And yeah, I'd say probably as soon as I started my professional career, schooling, obviously when I had my first son, that made me have to grow up and see
uh-huh.
life, in a different light, because now I had to provide for someone else, not just myself.
Yeah,
And at 22, right, with a girlfriend who was at the time my high school sweetheart as well, to move out and have to get an apartment and start providing for people. I mean, it's very easy to fall in a very depressed, stressed, anxious state of mind when you feel the world is just coming down on you and you're like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think those life lessons have taught me to just stay optimistic, and nothing in life lasts forever. Not
that's
even us
true.
as human
Yeah,
beings,
yeah,
right? And so there's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. It's just you have to go through that process, and sometimes it's a little lengthier, sometimes it's a lot, shorter, but 100% of the time you will look back and say, "Man, that was crazy!" Like what I went through. As long as you push forward, and
yeah,
so I think I've realized enough times that life does get better. You just have to push through. And so I
yeah,
think that's how I view things, and I think that's why I'm always happy and energy. And I try.
yeah, man.
Listen, I'm human, and I have my moments.
Of course, yeah.
And but again, I take 5 minutes to bitch and complain, and then I move on.
Yes, yeah, and you got to, and and you can't stay in that. Like I like that 5 minutes, right? Because I know people, and so do you. They do that for their like that's all they do is
Yeah,
moan
and
and
that's
complain.
draining, man.
It is
It's so
draining.
draining.
It is, and it's and and it makes the person doing it worse off, and then it takes the level of energy in the group that they're in. If you're not careful,
Yeah.
you kind of just get sucked down, and you're like, ugh,
Oh,
yeah,
dude, that's the most contagious thing. Like listen. There's one thing I've learned in life, and obviously I continue to learn as I'm getting older, and I continue to move on in my career professionally as a father. Um, you surround yourself around successful people, you will be successful.
yeah,
You surround yourself around negative people, you
mm-hmm,
will become a negative person.
yeah,
My father used to always tell me, tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are.
yeah,
And that's
absolutely,
1,000%
yeah,
true.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah. There's a proverb, and I've in the good book, bad company corrupts good character, and
Yep. Yep.
it's I remember one time I came home. I was in Bible college, doing ministry training for, I'm not really doing it full time anymore, but I was hanging out with a group of guys that, very sarcastic, like everything sarcastic. And I come home, and my youth pastor's wife, we were very close with the youth pastors that I had. They're very influential in me becoming a minister. Let's like to be honest, and I remember I can't remember what was said or what the context was, but she just looked at me and said, "I don't like you." Like the way that you are talking, what are you doing? Like, and I was just like, cut. I'm like, I'm being a bit of an asshole here, and and she called me out on it, and she was like, who, like, what are you doing? Who are you hanging out? Like that was like the question. Who are you hanging out with? And what kind, like,
Hmm.
and it's so true.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
It
man.
really is. And you know what? I'm lucky enough now in my life, where I've I've removed the people that weren't bringing anything positive into my life. It took me some time, man, because I'll be honest, I was a big party animal, man. I listen. I lived my 20s. Um, I think I lived my 20s for like 10 people. Like I really did, and being so young, making what I thought at that time really good money. Um, I'm talking. I was in Vegas maybe every weekend for 2-3 months in a row in Vegas, just throwing money away and just partying and doing all these things, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
as I started to grow up, I started to realize, like, man, I'm not getting anywhere in life. Instead of putting my money in things that are going to bring me some sort of benefit, I'm literally drinking it away. I am
Yeah.
partying it away. And I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
those friends were not there when I needed them, when, times were tough, you
Yeah.
know? And yeah, just your mindset starts to change, and you grow up. Some men grow up faster than others. I'll be the first to say it took me a while to grow up,
Yeah.
well into my 30s, but I'm glad that I experienced what I experienced. I'm glad that God allowed me to live the life that I have, because to the point earlier, I feel like now I can relate to my boys. There's things that I can relate as a father, as a friend, and just being a man in today's world. I can share those experiences with them,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, man.
So this is going to be a neat transition then. So your dad, is he a minister now? You
Yeah. Both my parents are still pastors, man.
okay? Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is so I'm a, like I can't remember if it was through Instagram messaging or you said it somewhere, maybe in one of the podcasts that you do with Miguel and the guys,
Yeah,
or
Miguel from SoCal and P. Ross.
yeah, and I don't know, I can't remember where I heard that you were a preacher's kid, but I was like, I gotta get to know this guy a little bit more because I can
You
only
said, how the hell is he a pastor's kid?
well, hey, listen, like nothing like that, but it's just I want to know. So, are your parents are what denomination or what do they preach? Are they Baptists? Are they
No,
what are they?
it's so we're Christian, non-denominational.
Christian
So,
non-denominational. Okay.
mhm.
So
Yep.
was there any? So would you describe your parents and your upbringing as like evangelical, right of center, or was it more liberal, a little bit left of center, or like where in the scale would you fall on in that regard?
So when we started, so I started going to church when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I would say we started in a Christian Baptist church.
Yeah.
And then so I want to say the came from a Baptist church, and then as we kind of progressed, they became a little bit more, again, non-denominational. Um, my parents were firm, in regards to the Word of God, and making sure that we had that fear for the Lord, in the sense of respecting and making sure. But
Yeah.
they would not sit there and be like, you can't do this because the Bible says this, right? Like, so in that
Yeah.
sense, I think they were a little bit more liberal, I guess you could say. But again, the roots were always kind of from like a Baptist perspective.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was, and again, I think that's why it turned out to be non-denominational at the
So
end
you
of
must
the
have wore
day.
their knees out. You must have wore their knees out in your 20s then, eh?
Oh man, my my poor mother, dude. My poor mother to this day tells me I would kill her. I mean, she would be praying nonstop. It was bad. It was bad. Yeah.
And so, was there, like, I've raised my kids obviously in the church, but we've never really put a tremendous amount of pressure on them. Uh, Being a preacher's kid, there's obviously going to be, with that, enough pressure on its own to uh, kind of conform to the
You got to
image
be
of a good.
perfect, man.
So
You got
here's
to be perfect.
So here's a story I can share about my. So there's a girl on Ellen that said, "I love Jesus, but I drink a little," and I would say, "I love Jesus, but I swear a lot." So my
Listen,
my kid,
you're talking to the preacher's kid,
yeah,
man.
no. So and I'm just trying to give a context because like my kid in Sunday school one time. um, they were talking, and my wife always said, you gotta be careful. It's gonna come out eventually, or whatever, right? And so my kids, all of about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, maybe, and in a little Sunday school class, and the teacher mentioned something about some little kid, and my son pipes up, says, "That kid's a bastard." So, but I have
Oh
seen
man.
the effects of uh, what I would call toxic religion on families and on kids, where
Yeah.
I've seen in the right of center, if you will, um, or further right, um, the toxicity of, you know, you're only valued and loved if you measure up to, whatever bar, right?
Everyone
And
else's expectations, man.
yeah, so I was very conscious of not wanting to, to do that, and I was just kind of curious with your upbringing. Um, it sounds like your parents were similar to the way that my wife and I kind of did things. Like we firmly believe in the Lord, and we would tell our kids when we saw them doing things that we know were destructive or not beneficial, to their lives. Um,
Correct.
and but as they grow into adolescent and adulthood, um, they're making their own choices. They have a good foundation. I want them to grow up, serving the Lord and having a healthy fear of the Lord. But I never really I don't think anyways, I put that pressure on them. They know I love them, regardless. And
Right.
that doesn't happen in
Yeah.
all upbringings, and it doesn't sound like it happened in yours. But um, did you
No,
feel
I mean,
pressure as a kid growing up in the church, like a preacher's kid? Like, did you feel kind of like, did you feel a pressure like that to, to measure up or whatever?
yeah, I mean, I think that that pressure is it's gonna be there regardless, right? And listen, uh, the people, and I'm sure there's gonna be people listening who can relate because they're involved in church, or they believe in God, and there's gonna be other people that are like, well, I don't get it, right?
Yeah.
But automatically, man, when your family, and in my case, my father and my mother decided to pick up that cross and take on the ministry, right? Um, it's immediate almost, where all eyes are on you,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a child,
Yeah.
right? Because again, we are a reflection of who our parents are, who the pastors are, and you have to be this. I mean, you have to be perfect. You have to almost walk on water.
Ah.
So there was always that pressure, right, of trying to live up. Also, with being a pastor's, child, comes responsibilities that you have to, participate and take on as
Yeah.
again part of the church.
So now let me ask
I
you
took
something real quick as you talk about this. Was a lot of that self-imposed? Was some of it like your parents had expectations, or was it
I think it was
just,
both.
or was it like an unwritten rule that was imposed upon by others in the congregation or whatever?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's a mixture of everything. I
Yeah.
think I think my parents, believed, hey, you're part of this family and we're doing this as a family, so you have to partake, right, and help this grow. I think there was also that of me wanting to do something for the Lord, and wanting to touch people's lives and have just that compassion for people. And I think that's why I'm such a people person. That part of my life has really made me who I am. And then I think also, right, there was just this expectation, the church, like, hey, you're the pastor's kid, like you have to do something, right? And so for me, I mean, I took that role on when I was 13, 12, 13. I joined worship, um, learned how to play instruments, as
Okay.
you go into that. Eventually, I became a worship leader, and that was my thing. And I loved my ministry. I loved that ministry. I loved worship. And it all came to an end, though, when I turned 22 and I had my first kid, you know? And I'll never forget the conversation, how scared I was to tell my parents that I was going to be a father at 22, while I was still partaking in my responsibilities at church, right? Obviously, that was a big sin. That was a big no
So
no.
this was out of wedlock,
And
right? Out of wedlock, then you
of
mean? Yeah.
correct. And I'll never forget, right?
So you were dipping your wick when you shouldn't have, huh, pal?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. um I had to stand in front of the church, in front of the congregation, and you know
Oh wow, eh?
you know and let them know what had happened, right? Let them know
Oh
that I was
my.
stepping down from my responsibilities.
Okay.
And dude, I remember
Whoa.
everyone's eyes just on me,
Yeah.
just, oh my god, the pastor's kid, and oh my God, how could he
Jeez,
do
that's
that? And dude, it's the other side of church
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
most people don't see,
Did that
right?
propel you into the okay? I'm. Did that kind of propel you into I'm just gonna party like it's whatever,
Like it's like yeah,
like
like
it's
it's
1999?
1996. Yeah, I think a part of that did. I think a part of that it hit home. I think for the first time in my life, these people who I had, spent years serving, in the sense of, I was still a good person just because I messed some
Yes.
I did something wrong didn't change who I was as a person,
No.
and
So tell me
I
about
think I
that. Did
felt
they were you? I mean, uh, there is expectation and there is uh, so that would be something that would be expected of you to do to step down from like a leadership role or whatever.
of
But
course,
how
of course.
did overall, how did your parents react and how did the church react? I'm sure your parents were like, okay, whatever, like let's,
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, my parents were super understanding. I mean, they were happy. Obviously, at the same time, they were like, "Hey, you're gonna have to grow up." So
yeah,
nothing against my parents. My parents handled the situation amazing. Obviously, I had roles that I had to step down to and confess my sin in a sense to why I was doing this. Right. Um,
gosh,
I
yeah,
think for me, the biggest thing was that these people who I had called my brothers or sisters, the people who had held me up in this pedestal almost, right,
yeah,
were so quick to start talking negative
yeah,
about me and my family and who I was.
man.
And I think for the first time in my life, I got a sense of betrayal. I got the sense of how fake people can be,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
and how
yeah, yeah.
quick someone can turn on you. Um, and I think that was one of the main reasons why I was like, you know what? I have a relationship with God. He knows I have a relationship with God. I will always have a relationship with God, but I don't need to be surrounded by these fake people
Mm,
to prove that I have a relationship with God.
mm.
And I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
also propelled me into my 20s and just
Yeah, and I think overall, especially if a church is more of an evangelical bend to it or right of center, however you want to label it, one of the things that they do poorly, and I'm evangelical, fully evangelical. I believe, like evangelical gospel, you know, you have to trust in the Lord to be saved. I believe in all of that. However, um, I also know that I'm not perfect.
yeah,
And, my kids know that I'm not perfect. I have learned, and I don't know when or how early on, but it is more beneficial to be a genuine and uh, not not elevate yourself by a lack of confession or a lack of empathy or compassion with um, people because and I've said to different people as I've counseled them pastorally under the same set of circumstances I probably would have done exactly what you did. you know I've always for a lot of years I've come from a perspective of I'm just as capable of the same sin or the same mistakes, however you want to label it, as anyone. So
yeah, man.
I
I
don't.
I think
The standard doesn't change, but the way that you approach failure or just disappointment or whatever, I do it better with other people than my own kids. I'm harder on my own kids,
yeah,
but
yeah,
not to a point where they would feel condemned for not living up to an expectation per se. That's really kind of what I'm
yeah.
so glad to hear that your parents did that because um, it can really. So, would you say that you are turned off of organized religion? Like, where are you at with regards to like, do you go to church now?
No, Yeah, no, we attend church. I'm not opposed to it now. I think that's what separated me from being so involved. And my parents continued. I think my parents always had that hope that I would return and I would, come back and pick up where I left off. But for me, honestly, I mean, that's only one part. You probably know better than anyone. Some churches unfortunately go through splits
Mm,
and
yeah.
congregations, split up. And again, this is the stuff that unless you're in it, you don't see. And again, this was another example during that time frame that kind of solidified my train of thought. You know, my parents' church split up. There was some division. The congregation decided to one go here, and then obviously the ones that stuck with my parents. But again,
This wasn't over
I got
your situation, was it?
no, 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 no,
Oh,
no, no.
good.
This was
I was gonna say
yeah,
that's a whole other bag
no,
of
no, no,
beans,
no,
man. Like, oh my
no.
gosh, I'm glad to hear
Hey,
that. That oh,
I destroyed a church. No, 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 no. This was years and years later. But then again, I got to see the ugly side of that as well on
yeah,
how fast these individuals, because of rumors and
uh,
just stuff that is said and he said she said, how they can easily destroy something so quick. And in my mind, I would sit there and think
mm,
like, man, my parents have given their life to serve you, to be there for you guys when you guys needed prayer, when you guys were going through difficult
yeah,
times. And you're so quick to backstab and so quick to just, dude, that to me, I was just like, people are a bunch of dicks. Like, I can't be part of that, dude. I can't be
yeah,
part.
yeah,
Listen,
yeah,
there's one thing I till this day I can't stand is fake people, man. And I
yeah,
think it's because of the stuff that I've witnessed.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm pretty good at picking up when an individual's being fake. But man, I can't stand fake individuals because
Mm-hmm.
of maybe some of the stuff that I've seen. And again, that's the ugly side of church that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't see unless you're in it. But there's also a lot of positive. So I don't want this to become a bash a church, and because
No,
it's
no.
not.
The
Um,
reality is that any group of people, and it doesn't matter who those group of people are, whether it's at a workplace or a different organization, or people are people, and
yeah, we're humans,
there
man.
is, and that's I've always tried to, again, at least with my own life, say I'm just as flawed, I'm just as needy of help and strength and whatever as anybody else is. So
Yeah,
um, I definitely don't portray myself as holier than thou, or up here you're down there, or whatever. But that's not the case in all of the church. But it's just because it's people. It doesn't and people get upset. Oh, the church is full of hypocrites. Yeah, of course it is. We're
yeah.
all everyone to
That's
some
all of us. That's all of
everyone in
us.
one way, shape, or form is playing and not presenting at all times their true selves, right? So
Exactly.
it's no different anywhere. I love the church, man, but I have some of the same.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of good. There's a
Oh,
lot of
absolutely,
good,
way
man.
more good than there is bad.
I
um,
agree.
but the weight of I empathize with your parents going through something like that. I haven't had the misfortune of walking through that myself. I've observed quite closely other churches splitting over kind of silly reasons, but that would have taken a huge toll on your mom and dad, no
Oh
question.
man,
That would have
I,
brutalized them. Like that's tough.
I think for the first time, that was the first time I saw my parents cry, broken down. Like I legit for the first time
Mm,
saw my parents hurt.
yeah,
Because these were individuals that they loved, and again, being part of the ministry, you are taught to have compassion for people and love thy neighbor and love
Yeah.
your right. And so all this love, dude, imagine just feeling betrayed by not one, not two,
Mm.
but get like half the like, man, you
Yeah.
sit there and you question, right? You sit there and you're like, am I
Yeah.
doing the right thing? Like, why is this happening? And dude, I again, for the first time ever, I think in those moments, I saw doubt. I saw the human side of
Yeah.
them, being attacked. And dude, that for me was so heartbreaking. Just seeing my mother, who, if my mother's just an amazing individual. Um, yeah, I that to me, and I was like, you know what, I want no part in this, and I think that's why I stepped away for a
Yeah.
couple of years, and
Oh, no doubt.
I
Especially if you see it, if you see your parents, who you know, at the very least, love and admire and respect and whatever, for what they're doing. Um, to see that happen to them, it's very understandable why you would go, to hell with you people. you know.
I'm out.
Yeah. And so
I
what?
said, keep the church.
So it's kind of come a little bit full circle. How did, like, you're going to church now? So tell me,
Yeah.
very briefly. We're just over an hour now. This has been awesome.
Already?
Oh, I know, it's been awesome.
Already?
But tell me how it's come back a little bit, and what you're doing now in that regard. That's kind of interesting to me, because my kids are kind of going through that phase right now where they've seen the ugliness. Especially my middle son, he's seen the ugliness, and he's like, yeah.
Hey, call Timeless Sneakers and Watches. I got you, bro.
So it's come somewhat full circle for you then, and or
again,
how would you define it now?
Yeah, my relationship with God had never stopped, man. I during that time, not once did I sit there and be like, why, Lord? Like it was human to human, person to person, right? It was never my relationship with God. I've always had one, and I will always. So even though I wasn't attending church, I was still, obviously listening to messages and podcasts and whatever.
Yeah.
It comes back full circle because I'm a parent now, and I look back at my youth, and again, there's a lot of real life situations as a young male that I'm here by the grace of God and the prayer of my mom and dad. And that little voice that was always in the back of my head, right, saying like, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing this, right? Like, you should probably say no to this. And my kids are growing up. I have a teenager, I have a 9-year-old, and I want them to have that little voice in the back of their head when real life happens and mom and dad are not there, because we're not always going to be there. For them to be able to have the, I don't know, discernment to say, hey, this is probably not a good idea. And so it comes full circle because I'm a parent. I want to be able to raise my kids and have them have the knowledge of how great God is and how great a marriage, a family who surround themselves and make their relationship the center around God, and how great that can be, because I've experienced it. I've seen it. It works. And I want them to have that. And I think it would be shame on me when my day comes and he's like, yo, like you had one job and you didn't even do it to your, like, with your own kids, right? Like, so.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Cool.
So that's how it came full circle.
All right. There's a couple of questions that I'm going to ask from people that,
hey, by the way, great picture. Thanks for the picture, man.
Do you know what it was? I was like, okay, I got to get a picture. Omar hasn't sent me one yet. And this is, hand to God, this is how it happened. I clicked on your, at the time, most recent video, and you were like, yeah, and I just went, screenshot. Cropped it, screenshot. I'm like, yeah, that works. And like, I wasn't worried about whether you were smiling, or I was just like, yeah, that looks kind of cool, and just threw it in there.
I said, remind me not to hire Chris to be my PR guy, dude.
That's awesome. Well, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So this is from David, your pal David, our pal David Schwartz, the Schwartz Force.
Tudor Bros.
Tudor. Yes, exactly. So traveling, and you've probably seen it. I don't know if you've seen the question or not, but traveling to a
No, I haven't.
tropical climate. So you're traveling to a tropical climate. Which two watches from the collection would you take? And I'll add a question as a what? Where's the tropical climate? Like where would you want to go tropical wise?
I was gonna say, well, my country's tropical, so when I go over there,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
humid.
yeah.
So, um, I would probably take. Currently, I would take this one. Um, and man, that's a good question. I'd probably take. Man, I'd probably take this in a G Shock, like the Casio Oak or
Oh
something.
yeah, okay. Very cool. Something that
Yeah,
you can kind of play with a little bit and not worry about
yeah. I
scuffing
mean,
it or banging
it'll
it or whatever. Yeah.
yep, yeah.
Cool,
I'd
man.
probably say those two.
So what place would you want to visit tropical wise or
Tropical.
what or if even maybe a non-tropical, but what's a place you want to visit before you die?
I want to go to Switzerland, man.
Yeah.
I want to go to Switzerland. I really do. That's on my bucket list, and I think that'll happen here sometime soon. But I think Switzerland is definitely one of my
Okay. And
bucket list
why
items.
Switzerland?
One, I think it's beautiful, but then I want to go see Rolex.
You want to go to the okay.
I want to
Cool.
see the factory. I want to be a tourist on that side, and it's no secret. Rolex is definitely one of my favorite brands, along
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Grand
man.
Seiko and then Seiko. But yeah, I definitely want to go out to Switzerland and see the factories. And again, I think Switzerland's just beautiful. So, go figure.
Cool. All right, here's a good question from Nancy's DIY life. Now,
That's my fiance, by the way. So I'm
I was
already
gonna say
scared.
this sounds like a person who knows Omar a little bit. Okay,
Too well. Too
so
well.
and this sounds like an interrogating question. Then knowing this, when
Let's
will
see.
you feel like your watch collection is complete? Also,
Hmm. Oh, the also got it.
also, why do you have so many shoes when you have run out of storage room? Let me translate
Uh,
that. What the hell, bro?
that's exactly what that means. Shoot, yeah.
So,
Okay. What was the first question?
when will you feel like your watch collection is complete?
I think when and I know this is gonna sound silly, but and it's funny. I talked to Miguel from SoCal Watch Reviews
Yep.
a lot, and I think sometimes he might even get annoyed because I'm always just so positive. But I have to be, man. I have to try to like this. Um, I don't know, man. I think for me, it's milestones, right?
Okay.
If you would have asked me 5 years ago, you know, would I have a Rolex or two or three? I would probably said no. But I put it in my mind and I spoke it to existence and I was like, I'm gonna get there. So I know this is gonna sound silly, but from
No,
a
no.
watch collecting perspective, for me, I think once I have a Patek and a AP in my collection, I think personally I'll feel like
Those are some big
I
hitters.
I'm good.
What's
I
that?
made it. I hit my goals and I'm good.
Now, are they like 50G? They like how much? Like the ones that you want, what's it going to cost you?
Uh, I would say between 30 to 40,000.
A piece or for both?
No, peace.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Okay, and
And
so
that's if I can get them at retail. And that's if I can get them at retail.
yeah.
And that's my goal. My goal is to eventually get them at retail. I don't think I would ever pay $100,000 for an AP or a Patek.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I would have to have stupid money, and I don't have fu money like that. So I would
Yeah.
have to get to a point where I can get these pieces at retail, and then yeah, I mean, listen, and it's no secret. I tell my fiance, I tell everybody, these are staying for the kids. You know, they're gonna enjoy them. I'll pass them down. It's an heirloom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At that point, and so, but me personally, when I can get an AP, you know, or a Patek, I think I'll feel fulfilled. I'll feel fulfilled.
Cool. Okay. And the shoes, man. What about these shoes? When or no, why do you have so many shoes when you have run out of storage room? Do you know what? The lady needs some room. That's what she's saying. Like I got
That's
some
exactly what
stuff.
she's
I
saying.
got some stuff too, man. Get rid of your frickin' shoes. So, so how many? Okay, so how many shoes do you actually have? How many shoes do you own?
So I
A
just recently
guesstimate.
started. I started counting because I had lost track. I think I'm at right now. And granted, I condensed it. I sold a ton, and then some way I just built up again.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think I'm at 140 pairs right now.
140
I know.
pairs. So okay,
I
so
know.
do you like I would guess your love for shoes is at least equal to your love for watches, but or is it just by sheer volume it's more practically, but like or what I mean
Well, it's easier to get. It's
they're
easier
a
to
little
get
easier to
shoes.
get. Yeah.
I mean, granted, not so much anymore. You know, especially Jordans, and I mean, it's almost nearly impossible. And you know, you're having to pay resale value for them as well. But I feel like they're a little bit more accessible, right? I can spend $300 on a pair of shoes. I'm not going to be spending $10,000 on a watch every month. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, dude, anyone that knows me since I was young knows I love fashion. I love shoes.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you should see my hat
Hat.
collection
I
too.
was going to ask cuz I have seen I think I don't know how many different videos or whatever I've seen, and you know you have a different hat on each one. So yeah, so like why not timeless sneakers, watches, hats, and how many hats
Yeah,
do you
no,
have?
man. So right now I just cleaned out a bunch of them. So I think I'm at like 50 or 60 hats right now. Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
know.
Okay, so
It's bad.
how big is your house? I mean, you gotta.
It's not that big. That's the thing.
That's
I
the
mean,
thing, right? So you're gonna have to
it's
buy
not that.
yourself a bigger home here, or
I
building
am.
an addition for
Well,
your fiance. For frig's sakes, man, come on. She's got to have some space too.
she told me, she's like, just so you know, the walk-in closet's no longer a walk-in closet. I'm like, you can
Yeah.
still walk in. There's still room.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay, man. So, um, wow, 140 pairs. That's
I know. I got to get
now.
rid of some, man.
Uh, do you like? You can't be wearing them, obviously. Like, do you wear them all like over a period of time? Will you wear them all, or is it just the love of collecting them? Or
Yeah, I think it's both, man. So obviously, I mean, I only have two feet, right? I can't
yeah,
wear
yeah,
all of them.
can't grow another pair. Yeah,
But yeah, listen, there's shoes that I have that I know I won't wear, but they're just pretty to see. And I'm like, man, this is such a cool shoe. And I'll probably never wear it, but I'm like, man, it feels so good to have it. I try to wear all my sneakers though. I really do. I'm not a big fan of just having them sit there because they disintegrate, you know, after time if you don't use them. So what's the point of having, you know, a shoe in a collection that is going to disintegrate and turn into dust?
sure.
Um, so I do wear all my shoes. I try to wear them throughout, you know, a period of time. But there's certain shoes that I do have that I'm just like, ah, man, this is such a pretty shoe. I might not wear it as often, but I'll take it out of the box and I'm like, ah, man, this is so cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Go figure. Go figure. I have a problem. I have a problem.
Yeah, and I think you know the answer to that question for me, as far as watches are concerned, um, never. Like it'll never be complete. Like
No.
no man. Like uh, the one, you know, I could have definitely bought that Breitling by now if I didn't buy all these other ones. But
Right, right.
but but then I wouldn't have, you know, then I wouldn't have a channel and talk because I wouldn't have watches to talk about.
Well, let me ask
If
you
I only
this:
bought one,
how
right?
many watches do you have?
I've got. right now, and I don't have an exact count, but I just had to buy a new box because I was getting tired of stacking watches inside the box. So I used to have like, what I used to do is I'd have two boxes, my top box, my bottom box, and then if they didn't make those, they'd just stay inside the, you know, the box, and then I'd be like, okay, I'll sell these, and the watches that I have, like, they're budget watches. I love budget watches. Um, they're not going to make me any money. I'm going to get back a little bit of money once I start selling them. But I've got a box of 24 now, another box of 12.
Jeez.
I got a box of 12, so that's 36. I got another box with 6 in it, so that's 42, and I probably got another dozen sitting in boxes. So I got over 50 watches now.
Oh my God, bro, that's insane.
Now, again, the argument is, why did you buy all of those when, you know, you could have, you know, spent the money on, you know, like a luxury item like the Breitling Super Ocean that I want or whatever? And my answer is because I want it to do a YouTube channel. I want it, and I wouldn't have, you know, I'd have one watch to talk about. and I wouldn't have a channel. So, but it's for me to attain the Super Ocean. If I ever got that, I wouldn't stop buying budget watches, and I just, if a watch looks good, I don't care, you know, if it only costs $100 or $50, or, you know, that I just like watches. I've always had one, and I love wearing them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as long as I'm able to continue doing what I'm doing, and my only goal getting into the YouTube thing after I kind of started and got into it was like, if this can eventually pay for the hobby, then awesome. And right now it's getting to that point where, you know, I am
By
on
the
it.
way, congrats, bro. You hit 1,000, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's I'm still blown away by it. Like, I don't consider, you know, what I'm doing any different than anybody else, per se. It's just like I'm just having fun, and, you know, I'm making
That's
about
the key.
$1 a day now.
Hey,
Maybe a buck.
you're
Maybe a buck 50. Maybe a buck 50.
hey,
So
you're doing it, baby. You're living the dream. You're
Yeah.
living
So,
the YouTube dream, man.
I kind of figured if through the viewership and through just the little bit of money that you make, that it can actually continue, that it can actually fund the, I got this watch this week, you know,
Yeah.
and then, you know, start to make me a bit of money, because I obviously won't keep all of these watches. I'll try and sell them somehow. That was just kind of my only goal, and it's getting
It's
there.
funny you say that. It's funny you say that. So, my inner circle knows this, and obviously, I'm the luckiest guy in the world to have such a supporting fiance. And I know she asked that question, and you know she'll give me a hard time, but
Yeah.
she's always supporting me. But my collection, and even this Rolex, I started with budget watches as well. Obviously, at the time, I didn't have a YouTube channel, so I was reviewing budget watches. But you know, you can ask Miguel from SoCal. He came right when I first started getting into this. Was, you know, the whole YouTube thing, which was about 2 years ago. Um, I had nothing but Seikos and Orients, and I think I had Alpha in there, and you know, a bunch of these like cheaper watches. And to your point, I think I had at one point, I think I had about close to 40 watches. And one day, man, I was just like, why do I have so many watches? Like, I can't wear them all. And little by little, man, I started selling those, and then I would upgrade what I would consider an upgrade.
Yeah.
And I get more. I sold everything, got the dude, and it was crazy because by the time I sold all those watches, I had a couple $1,000s in those cheaper watches.
Yeah.
And that's how I bought my first Tudor. And you know, then I flipped my Tudor, and then I got something else, and I got something else. And dude, I literally have sold my way up to being able to buy a Rolex. Like, the money that I've gotten to purchase these watches have come from me just flipping those budget watches, and eventually, the Tudors and Grand Seikos, and I've been able to kind of climb up the ladder that way. And I was going to tell you, man, I'm sure if you look back and you look at that watch box, you probably have a couple $1,000s that you could
Oh, I
probably
do.
sell and get yourself something really good.
I do. And and I, there's some that I definitely don't want to sell for that reason. Um, but that is ultimately kind of probably a path that I'm going on now, just for uh, uh, familial family reasons. Um, my wife is, she's supportive of me, but we both collectively have some dreams of our own for our retirement, and for what we want to do when we're at that point, and which includes traveling to the States and maybe even having a second home down there,
Nice.
Georgia or Florida.
Come to Cali, baby.
My wife loves the sun, so that's not. We're east. Ontario isn't the east coast of Canada, but it's not far from the east coast, and California is a long way away for us. To anyway, that's not outside of the possibility, because my wife loves the sun.
Nice.
Like, loves the sun. And we have winters here in Canada, and the summer here is only a couple of months long, where you get like high 70s, low 80s numbers weather-wise. It's only for, like, you're living in the land of the sun, right? Like in California there. My wife would love
Summer
it.
gets hot. Yeah, man.
My
Summer's
wife
hot.
would love it. So for me to spend, even if I sold my watches, for me to spend $5, $10, $15,000 on a watch, when I know that could go toward, the dream that my wife has for having another place to go to in a warmer climate. Like, I would have to have, what did I say to even to my wife? I said, like, if I bought a $10,000 watch, I'd have to have like a lot more money than that, that I could put toward what we want to do. So I'm not, even if I sold all my watches and I could get an Omega or, the Super Ocean or something like that, I don't know honestly that I would, just because I know that she wants something that, if I can provide that, that's a no-brainer. I'd take that over a watch any day. So
let me play devil's advocate real quick.
okay.
So what if you did what you did? Let's say you sold everything and you bought yourself a watch, and I'm going to use Rolex because Rolex is the perfect example for this. Let's say you got the opportunity, and AT called you and said, "Hey, come pick up this Pepsi, come pick up this Batman. You can get it at retail." You're going to spend the $10,000, right? That's probably going to hurt you, and like you said, you're like, "Hey, I could probably allocate this somewhere else." But instantly, just double. So $1,000 just became $20,000 plus by buying that one watch.
Yeah.
And depending on how long you hold it, that watch may increase even more in value. So your $10,000 just became potentially, let's call it 25, 30,000.
Yeah.
You could sell that watch at some point and cash out and use that towards that.
True. Yeah. And that's, the reality is that is an investment in that regard, but, with the hate that Rolex got at this last rollout, like, you just never know in 10 years time or whatever, if that's what the outcome is going to be. But, if I could get a watch and quickly flip it like that, I wouldn't even hold on to it. Like, I'm on a Facebook group, Canada Watch House or something like that, and it's mostly luxury pieces. So I kind of go and I'm like, yeah, this is interesting, but it's not where I am right now. And a guy was trying to sell um, I want to say it was if I remember correctly, it was an all gold Daytona. And he was asking, and it was, I mean, this was tripped out. It was solid gold. Well, I mean, like, you know what I mean? And I think he
Right.
was asking like $125,000 or something like that. And he got shit on for, it's kind of like the Omega Swatch thing where people were
Right.
snagging them up and trying to sell them for like $2,000 for,
Right.
you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But good on the guy if he ends up selling it. I mean,
And
he's,
here's the crazy part. The crazy part is he probably will.
yeah. And
You know.
so I don't know. Yeah, I mean that is definitely something that I would totally consider doing. But again, it's the end. The end of it isn't to own the Rolex or a luxury piece. The end game would be to get that home for my wife, or a condo, or the ability to go south for 6 months of the year and avoid winter. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
No, I get it, man.
yeah,
Listen. I look at it this way. If all else fails, at least I can sell these, and I know I'll get my money and some.
yeah,
So.
man, yeah. Well, that is, and I mean, I know, and for me, it's not that I don't think I can do it. Uh, like logistically, it would take a while for me to get a $10,000 watch. Maybe not as long as I think. The logistic of it isn't what deters me. It's I I could spend the $10,000 in a way that's gonna better my wife and
Yeah.
our
No.
goals.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
So
agree.
it's just yeah, man. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But
Hey,
you're the glass half full, and it's going to be full guy. I'm the there's
it
water there
is.
and better not spill out guy. So
Hey,
that's the difference in this
I'm the guy that's
conversation
gonna
right
tell
here.
you. Hey, I'm the guy that's gonna tell you you can do it.
Yeah,
If
man.
you really want it, you can do it.
And the reality is though, that's not important to me. Um,
Right.
it's just not something that's important to me, and I don't look down on anybody who is able to do it. I mean, I just think, oh my gosh, like way to go, right? um, so that's just me. So
Yeah. No.
one
No.
day the
I.
Breitling Super Ocean, I definitely want that one, and that's going to run me. Well, if I bought it today, it would cost me $5,000.
There you go. I listen. I'm the guy that you only live once,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all gonna die, right?
That's true.
And everything is gonna get left behind: money, homes, watches, cars. We don't get to take anything with us.
Unless you're Kevin O'Leary,
So.
he thinks he's going to take his watches with him.
So I don't want to live my life and getting to an old age and saying, man, I wish I would have, owned, or I wish I could have gone a Rolex, or I wish I could have done this, or I wish I could have done that. Reality is, I might not even wake up tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to. Yeah, I think that's again half the cup half full, right? I'm always thinking like, you only live once. Screw it, fuck it, do it. Um, you'll figure it out later.
Yeah, and I mean, if I could do both, I would do it in a heartbeat. If I could only do one, it would be to support what my and I do too. I would love to be able to go down to the States with her, and but again, that's you know 15 to 20 years down the road when we're ready to retire, and I'm not guaranteed that time, so no one is.
True.
So
True.
yeah. Well, listen, man, we've been talking for an hour and 33 minutes and 20 seconds.
Hey, you
30
talk
seconds.
too much, man.
I know. But this has been absolutely awesome, and I thank you so much for doing it. So I think
Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna sign off. I want to talk to you just for a brief moment after
Yeah.
the cameras are done,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the recording is done. But I want to thank you for doing this. Like this has made my whole weekend, man. It really has.
Stop it! You're making me blush, man.
Oh, it has. Like I was so looking forward to this. I just love the connection that this hobby has created.
You get to meet some really cool people, man. You get to meet some really awesome people. There's some assholes out there, but we're not all assholes. So just you do meet some cool people,
man.
and
Absolutely.
I thank you for having me, man. I had a blast.
Yeah, man. So thanks everybody for checking out this podcast, and if you watched to the very end, thanks.
Jeez.
And make sure you head over to Omar's channel and subscribe to it. And if you haven't subscribed to mine, I'd love for you to do that as well. And we will see you in the next video, gang. God bless. Thanks so much.
Peace.